A massive alien ship appeared in Earth's solar system on a Tuesday morning. It was bigger than any space station humans had ever built. The ship looked like a silver mountain floating in the darkness of space. Its surface was covered with strange symbols that glowed blue and green. Commander Jake Martinez stood on the bridge of the orbital station New Geneva. He watched the alien vessel through the large windows. His hands shook a little as he held his coffee cup. This was the moment humanity had been waiting for. First contact with aliens. The alien ship sent a message in perfect English. The voice was deep and strange, like someone talking through water. Greetings, humans of Earth. We are the Galactic Defense Coalition. We come in peace to speak with your leaders. Jake pressed the communication button. This is Commander Martinez of the United Earth Space Force. Welcome to our solar system. We are ready to meet with you. 3 hours later, a small shuttle left the alien ship. It docked with New Geneva Station. Jake waited in the main meeting room with 20 other human officers. They all wore their best uniforms. The room smelled like cleaning products and nervous sweat. The airlock doors opened with a soft hiss. The first alien to step through was tall and thin. Its skin was pale blue and covered with small scales. It had 4 arms and eyes that looked like black jewels. Behind it came 2 more aliens. One looked like a giant insect with silver armor. The other was short and round with purple fur. The tall blue alien spoke first. I am Admiral Crixtal of the Zentarian Defense Fleet. This is Captain Valtara of Coalition Intelligence. And this is Major Thunk of the Kroger Marines. Jake stepped forward. Welcome to New Geneva Station. I am Commander Martinez. We are honored to meet you. Admiral. Crixtal looked around the room. His black eyes studied every human face. We have come to your world because our galaxy faces a great danger. An enemy called the Void Swarm is destroying entire star systems. They eat everything in their path. Planets, ships, people. Nothing stops them. The human officers looked at each other. Some of them whispered quietly. Jake raised his hand for silence. What do you want from us? We need warriors, said Captain Valtara. Her voice sounded like music, but sad music. The Coalition has been fighting the Void Swarm for 50 years. We are losing. Every battle costs us ships and lives, but we cannot defeat them alone. Major. Thunk stepped forward. He was the size of a small car and had claws like knives. We heard your species knows how to fight. We want to see if this is true. Jake felt proud. Humans were being asked to join a galactic war. We have armies and navies. Our weapons are advanced. We can fight. Admiral Crixtal made a sound like laughing, but not happy laughing. Commander Martinez, we have studied your history. Your wars are small. A few thousand dead here, a few million there. The Void Swarm has killed billions. This is not the same thing. One of the human officers, Colonel Brown, stood up. His face was red with anger. We have fought wars for thousands of years. We know about battle. Do you? Asked Captain Valtara. She touched a device on her wrist. The air above the table began to glow. Pictures appeared in the light. This was the Battle of Kepler Prime. The Void Swarm attacked with 2 million bioships. The Coalition fleet had 500,000 vessels. The battle lasted 6 days. When it ended, both sides had lost half their forces. But the Void Swarm did not care. They had more ships coming. The humans stared at the pictures. The space battle was huge. Ships exploded like fireworks. Alien creatures the size of buildings fought in the darkness. It made human wars look like children playing with toys. We need to know if humans can really fight, said Admiral Crixtal. Not just shoot weapons, but think about war. Plan battles. Make hard choices. Jake thought for a moment. What kind of test do you want? We want to meet your best warrior, said Captain Veltara. The human who has killed the most enemies. The one who understands war better than anyone else. The room went quiet. Jake knew exactly who they meant. There was only one person on Earth who fit that description. I will contact Colonel Lisa. Harper. She is our most experienced combat officer. How many enemies has she killed? Asked Major Thunk. His claws clicked together as he talked. Over 2,000 confirmed kills, said Jake. She has fought in 12 different wars on 6 different worlds. The aliens looked at each other. Admiral Crixtel's eyes went wide. 2,000? By herself? Yes, said Jake. She specializes in close combat and tactical operations. No one in the Earth military has more experience. Impossible, said Captain Veltara. Our best warriors might kill 100 enemies in their entire career. 2,000 is ... Is what? Asked Colonel Brown. Frightening, said Admiral Crixtel. Quietly. Jake called Colonel Harper on the communication system. Her face appeared on the main screen. She looked tired but alert. Her hair was short and gray. Her eyes were the color of steel. Harper here, she said. Colonel, we need you at New Geneva Station. We have visitors from space. They want to meet our best soldier. Harper looked at the aliens on the screen. Her expression did not change. How long do I have? Can you be here in 6 hours? I'll be there in 4. The screen went dark. Admiral Crixtel stared at the empty screen. She did not seem surprised to see us. Colonel Harper is not easily surprised, said Jake. She has seen a lot of strange things in her career. Tell us about her, said Captain Veltara. Jake pulled up Harper's military record on the computer. The list of battles and missions filled the entire screen. She joined the military at 18. She fought in the Mars Rebellion when she was 20. Then the asteroid wars, the Jupiter-Moon campaigns, the Alpha Centauri conflict. She has been in combat for 30 years. 30 years of war? Asked Major Thunk. Almost non-stop, said Jake. She only takes breaks between missions to train new soldiers. The aliens studied Harper's record. The numbers were shocking. Battles won, enemies killed, missions completed. Her success rate was nearly perfect. This cannot be accurate, said Admiral Crixtel. No single warrior could survive so much combat. Colonel Harper is special, said Jake. She understands war in ways that most people cannot. She thinks like the enemy. She knows how they will move before they do. 4 hours later, Colonel Harper arrived at New Geneva Station. She walked into the meeting room wearing a simple green uniform. No medals or fancy decorations. Just a soldier ready for work. The aliens stared at her. She was not what they expected. Harper was average height and build. She had scars on her hands and face, but she did not look like a monster. She looked like someone's mother or teacher. Colonel Harper, said Jake. Meet Admiral Crixtel of the Galactic Defense Coalition. Harper nodded to each alien. Admiral, Captain, Major, I understand you have a problem with something called the Void Swarm. You know about them? Asked Captain Veltara. I read the reports on the way here, said Harper. She sat down at the table. Hive mind species, biomechanical ships. They reproduce by consuming organic matter. Standard swarm behavior. The aliens looked surprised. Harper had understood their enemy in minutes. We want to know if humans can help us fight them, said Admiral Crixtel. Harper smiled for the first time. It was not a nice smile. Admiral, humans have been fighting swarms for millions of years. Ants, bees, locusts. We know how to deal with creatures that attack in large numbers. But the Void Swarm is different, said Major Thunk. No, said Harper quietly. They are exactly the same. They just happened to fly spaceships. Colonel Harper sat at the conference table and opened her tablet computer. The alien officers watched her carefully. She had been studying their battle reports for 2 hours without saying a word. "Your tactics are wrong," Harper said finally. "Admiral." Crickstall's scales changed from blue to dark purple. "Excuse me? You fight like you are trying to save lives," Harper explained. "That is why you keep losing." Captain Veltara leaned forward. "Of course we try to save lives. That is the point of civilization." Harper looked up from her tablet. Her gray eyes were cold and calm. "No, the point of civilization is to survive. If you want to beat the Void Swarm, you have to be willing to sacrifice everything." "We cannot ask our soldiers to die needlessly," said Major Thunk. "Who said anything about needlessly?" Harper asked. "I am talking about winning. Show me your battle footage." Captain Veltara touched her wrist device. The air above the table filled with moving pictures. A space battle played out in front of them. Coalition ships fired their weapons at dark, twisted Void Swarm vessels. The alien ships looked like they were made of bone and metal, mixed together. Harper watched the battle without blinking. "Stop," she said. "Go back to the part where your fleet pulls away." The image rewound. It showed coalition ships retreating when their formation was broken. "There," said Harper. "That is your problem. You retreat when you take casualties. The Void Swarm does not retreat. Ever. They keep attacking until every last one of them is dead. But we lost 30% of our forces," said Admiral Crickstall. "Standard coalition doctrine requires withdrawal at 20% casualties." Harper made a sound like a laugh, but there was no humor in it. 30%? That is nothing. Humans have won battles after losing 70% of our forces. The aliens stared at her in shock. Major Thunk's claws scraped against the table. "That is impossible. No army can function with such losses." "Show them the Stalingrad files," Harper said to Jake. Jake pulled up historical records on the main screen. The aliens saw pictures of human soldiers fighting in a destroyed city. Snow covered the ground. Dead bodies were everywhere. The numbers at the bottom of the screen showed casualties in the millions. "This was one battle," Jake explained. "It lasted 6 months. By the end, both armies had lost almost everything. But the humans who were defending the city never gave up. They fought until the enemy was completely defeated." Captain Veltara studied the images. "How many died?" "About 2 million, said Harper. "But the enemy lost an entire army group. They never recovered from that defeat." 2 million in one battle? Admiral Crickstall whispered. "That was not even our biggest battle," Harper said. She pulled up more files. "This was the Battle of the Somme. In one day, we lost 60,000 soldiers, but we kept fighting for 4 more months. The aliens could not believe what they were seeing. Humans had fought wars that made the coalition's conflicts look small." "Your people are insane," said Major Thunk. "No," Harper said calmly. "We are survivors. We understand something that you do not. Sometimes you have to lose everything to win everything." She stood up and walked to the window. Outside, Earth hung in space like a blue marble. "Look at that planet. It is beautiful and peaceful now, but it took thousands of years of war to get there. Humans have been killing each other since we learned to make tools. We are very good at it." "But surely you prefer peace," said Captain Veltara. Harper turned back to face them. "Of course we prefer peace. But we know that peace has a price, and we are willing to pay that price, no matter how high it is." Admiral Crickstall activated his own data device. "Show us how you would fight the Void Swarm." Harper smiled. This time it was not a cold smile. It was the smile of someone who enjoyed their work. "Computer, Run tactical simulation. The room filled with a three-dimensional map of space. Void swarm ships appeared as dark dots. Coalition forces were blue dots. Harper reached into the hologram and began moving the blue dots around. First, you never retreat, she said. Every ship fights until it is destroyed or the enemy is dead. No exceptions. But the casualties ... double quotes, started Major Thunk. Will be high, Harper finished. But acceptable. Watch. She ran the simulation. The coalition forces crashed into the Void Swarm fleet like a hammer hitting glass. Ships exploded on both sides. The blue dots disappeared one by one, but so did the dark dots. 60% coalition. Casualties, said Admiral Crickstall. This is terrible. 100% Void Swarm casualties, Harper replied. This is victory. The simulation ended. The dark dots were all gone. Only a few blue dots remained. You would sacrifice thousands of lives for one battle, said Captain Veltara. Yes, Harper said simply. Because if we do not win every battle, we lose the war. And if we lose the war, everyone dies anyway. Jake brought up another file. Show them the Pacific War. The aliens watched footage of human soldiers fighting on tropical islands. The battles were brutal and bloody. Humans charged into machine gun fire. They fought with knives and bayonets when they ran out of bullets. The enemy in this war would rather die than surrender, Jake explained. So our soldiers had to kill. Every single one of them. It took 4 years and cost millions of lives. But we won. How do your people accept such losses? Asked Admiral Crickstow. Harper sat back down. Because we understand the alternative. If we lose, our families die. Our children die. Our entire way of life disappears. So we fight with everything. We have, but the Coalition has been fighting the Void Swarm for 50 years, said Captain Veltara. We have tried everything. No, Harper said. You have tried everything except total war. You fight with one hand tied behind your back. You worry about casualties and civilian populations and diplomatic consequences. The Void Swarm does not worry about any of those things. She pulled up the Void Swarm battle footage again. Look at how they fight. They use their own wounded as weapons. They sacrifice entire fleets to gain small advantages. They turn captured Coalition soldiers into more Void Swarm creatures. They do whatever it takes to win. The aliens watched. Their own footage with new eyes. They could see what Harper meant. The Void Swarm fought without any limits or restrictions. So what do you suggest? Asked Major Thunk. Fight like them, Harper said. Use every weapon you have. Except that soldiers will die. Stop trying to save everyone and start trying to kill everything. We cannot become monsters, said Admiral Crickstow. You do not have to become monsters, Harper replied. You just have to be willing to do monstrous things to protect the people you love. She activated her own tablet and showed them human military. Doctrine. This is how we train our soldiers. They learn that their mission comes first. Their lives come second. Everything else comes last. The aliens read the training materials. They were shocked by what they saw. Humans taught their soldiers to use any weapon, fight in any condition, and never give up no matter what happened. Your soldiers are taught to die for their mission, said Captain Veltara. Yes, Harper said, and that is why we win wars. A soldier who is not afraid to die is the most dangerous thing in the universe. But how do you live with the guilt? Asked Admiral Crickstall. How do you sleep at night, knowing that you sent thousands to their deaths? Harper was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was very soft. You do not sleep well. You have nightmares. You remember every face and every name. But you do it anyway, because someone has to. Someone has to make the hard choices, so that others can live in peace. The room was silent. The aliens looked at Harper with new understanding. She was not a monster. She was someone who had chosen to carry a terrible burden so that others would not have to. "Will you help us?" asked Admiral Crickstall finally. Harper nodded. "Yes, but you have to understand something. If humans join this war, we will fight it. Our way. We will not pull back when things get difficult. We will not worry about casualties or diplomatic relations. We will kill the Void Swarm, all of them, no matter what it costs. And if we cannot accept that?" asked Captain Veltara. Harper stood up and walked toward the door. "Then you will lose this war, and everyone in the galaxy will die. The choice is yours." She left the room. The aliens sat in silence, thinking about what she had said. They had come to Earth looking for warriors. They had found something much more dangerous. They had found a species that understood the true nature of war. Admiral Crickstall made his decision 3 days later. He found Colonel Harper in the station's training room. She was teaching human combat techniques to a group of Coalition Marines. The alien soldiers looked confused and frightened. "Colonel Harper," the Admiral said, "we want to test your methods in real combat." Harper finished showing a Marine how to use a combat knife. "What did you have in mind?" "There is a Void Swarm outpost on Kepler 442b, Admiral Crickstall explained. "Our scouts found it last week. About 500 enemy creatures. We want you to lead an attack." Harper wiped sweat from her face with a towel. "What are the rules?" "Of engagement? Standard Coalition protocol. Minimal casualties. Preserve as many forces as possible. Withdraw if losses exceed 5%. "No," Harper said. "If you want me to lead this mission, we do it my way. No retreat. No casualty limits. We destroy every enemy on that planet." Admiral Crickstall's scales turned dark blue. "That could mean heavy losses." "It will mean victory," Harper replied. "Your choice." The Admiral thought for a moment. "Very well. But I am sending Captain Veltara to observe. If the casualties become too high, she has authority to order a withdrawal." Harper shrugged. "She can try." 2 days later, Harper stood on the bridge of the Coalition assault ship, Bright Sword. Next to her were 2 other humans. Sergeant Danny Rodriguez was a demolitions expert with over 800 confirmed kills. Lieutenant Amy Watson specialized in close combat and had survived 15 different planetary assaults. The alien crew watched the humans with nervous fascination. The 3 humans looked calm and relaxed, like they were going on a vacation instead of a battle. "Approaching Kepler 442b, announced the ship's pilot, a tall insectoid creature named Clicktor. Harper looked at the planet on the main screen. It was brown and rocky, with a thin atmosphere. Perfect hiding place for the Void Swarm. "Show me the target area." Captain Veltara activated the tactical display. Red dots appeared on the planet's surface. "The Void Swarm has built a nest complex in this canyon system. Our estimates suggest 500 to 600 individual creatures." "What types?" asked Danny Rodriguez. "Standard bioforms," Captain Veltara replied. "Workers, warriors, and maybe 2 or 3 breeding queens." Lieutenant Watson studied the terrain map. "Defensive positions? Unknown. The Void Swarm adapts there. Nests to local conditions." Harper nodded. "How many Coalition Marines do we have?" 200, said Captain Veltara. "Our best troops. And what are their orders?" "Secure the perimeter. Provide fire support. Minimize exposure to enemy forces." Harper turned to face the alien captain. "Change of plans. The Marines go in first, hard and fast. They draw enemy attention while my team hits the nest from the rear." "That will put the Marines in terrible danger," Captain Veltara protested. "Yes, Harper agreed. But it will also give us the best chance of destroying the entire nest. Major Thunk entered the bridge. His armor was polished, and his weapons were ready. The Marines are prepared for deployment. Tell them they are not going to have a good day, Harper said. But if they follow orders and do not run, they will be heroes. The bright sword entered the planet's atmosphere. The ship shook as it passed. Through clouds and wind, Harper felt the familiar excitement that came before battle. Her heart rate increased. Her senses became sharper. Landing in 5 minutes, announced Clicktor. Harper checked her weapons one last time. She carried a standard, Coalition energy rifle, a human combat knife, and several grenades that Danny had modified with extra explosives. Amy Watson had similar gear, plus a medical kit for treating wounded soldiers. Remember, Harper told the Coalition officers, no retreat. We finish what we start. The ship landed in a cloud of dust and smoke. The rear doors opened with a loud bang. Coalition Marines ran out in perfect formation. Their armor gleamed in the alien sunlight. Harper and her team followed at a distance. They moved like ghosts through the rocky terrain. The canyon was narrow and twisted. Perfect place for an ambush. The first attack came 10 minutes later. Void. Swarm creatures poured out of hidden caves. They looked like giant spiders made of metal and bone. Their legs ended in sharp claws. Their mouths were full of needle teeth. The Coalition Marines opened fire. Energy beams lit up the canyon walls. Several void swarm creatures fell, but more kept coming. The aliens fought exactly like Harper expected. Careful, controlled, worried about their own safety. This is not working, Captain Veltara said through the radio. We should pull back. Negative, Harper replied. Danny, light them up. Sergeant Rodriguez pulled out a modified grenade. He threw it into the middle of the void swarm creatures. The explosion was huge. Rock fragments flew everywhere. When the smoke cleared, a dozen enemies were dead, but more creatures appeared. They swarmed over the Coalition Marines like angry ants. Harper could see the alien soldiers starting to panic. Watson with me, Harper commanded. We are going in. Lieutenant. Watson followed Harper down into the canyon. They moved fast and quiet. The void swarm creatures were focused on the Marines and did not see the two humans approaching from behind. Harper opened fire at close range. Her energy rifle burned through enemy armor like paper. Amy Watson fought with her combat knife, slashing at creature joints and weak spots. They moved through the enemy formation like dancers, each supporting the other. This is insane, Captain Veltara said over the radio. You are outnumbered 50-1. Exactly where we want them, Harper replied. She grabbed a void swarm weapon from a dead creature and turned it against its former allies. The bioweapon fired acid that melted through enemy armor. Danny Rodriguez joined them in the canyon. His explosives had cleared a path through the enemy lines. Found the main nest, he reported. About 200 meters ahead. Lots of ugly customers guarding it. Harper looked at the Coalition Marines. Half of them were wounded. They were running low on ammunition. In a normal battle, this would be the time to retreat. All units advance on the main nest, Harper commanded. Colonel, we cannot, protested. Major Thunk, too many casualties. Major, look around you, Harper said. Half the enemy is already dead. This is when we push forward, not back. She led the charge toward the main nest. The Coalition Marines followed her, inspired by her fearless example. Amy Watson provided covering fire while Danny Rodriguez placed explosive charges on enemy positions. The main nest was a huge hole in the ground surrounded by organic walls. Void swarm creatures poured out like water from a broken dam. Harper counted at least 200 enemies, maybe more. This is suicide, said Captain Veltara. "No," Harper replied. "This is war." She jumped down into the nest. The walls were covered with a sticky substance that smelled like rotting meat. Void swarm eggs hung from the ceiling like fruit. In the center of the nest, 3 breeding queens sat on thrones made of bone. The queens were huge, each one the size of a small building. They had too many arms and legs to count. Their eyes glowed red in the darkness. When they saw Harper, they screamed with voices like breaking glass. Amy Watson landed next to Harper. "Pretty ladies," she said. "Shame we have to kill them." "Danny." Rodriguez appeared at the nest entrance. "Charges are set. We have 2 minutes before this whole place comes apart." Harper opened fire on the nearest queen. Her energy rifle burned holes in the creature's thick skin. Black blood poured out like oil. The queen screamed again and tried to grab Harper with one of its many arms. Amy Watson slashed at the arm with her combat knife. The blade cut deep, almost severing the limb completely. The queen pulled back in pain and rage. More void swarm creatures poured into the nest. They came from every direction, trying to protect their queens. Harper and her team found themselves surrounded by enemies. "Coalition Marines, where are you?" Harper called on the radio. "We are trying to reach you," Major Thunk replied. "Too many enemies in the way." "Then make a way," Harper ordered Dot above them. The Coalition Marines fought harder than they ever had before. They stopped worrying about their own safety and focused on helping the humans in the nest. Energy beams cut through enemy ranks. Grenades exploded in perfect timing. Harper shot the second queen in the head. The creature collapsed with a sound like thunder. Its death scream echoed through the canyon. The other void swarm creatures became even more violent and desperate. 1 minute. Until detonation, Danny Rodriguez warned. Amy Watson was fighting 3 enemies at once. Her knife flashed in the dim light. Black blood covered her uniform. She was smiling like someone having the time of her life. Harper turned toward the third queen. This one was bigger than the others and covered with natural armor. Her energy rifle could not penetrate its thick skin. "Danny, give me something bigger," she called. Rodriguez threw her one of his special grenades. "Pull the pin and count to 3. Then throw it and run." Harper caught the grenade and pulled the pin. She counted slowly. 1, 2, 3. She threw the grenade at the third. Queen and dove for cover. The explosion shook the entire nest. Rock and dirt fell from the ceiling. The third queen let out a death scream that made Harper's ears ring. When the smoke cleared, the creature was nothing but scattered pieces. 30 seconds, Danny announced. The 3 humans ran toward the nest entrance. Behind them, the remaining void swarm creatures gave chase. Above ground, the Coalition Marines provided covering fire to help their human allies escape. Harper reached the surface first. News of the Kepler 442b victory spread through the Coalition fleet like wildfire. Within hours, every alien commander knew about the humans who had destroyed an entire void swarm nest with massive casualties but complete success. Colonel Harper stood in Admiral Crickstall's private quarters aboard the flagship Sovereign Dawn. Through the large windows, she could see dozens of Coalition ships floating in space. Each one represented a different alien species that had joined the fight against the Void Swarm. 45% casualties, Admiral Crickstall said. His voice was quiet and troubled. In Coalition history, no mission with such losses has ever been considered a success. Harper poured herself a cup of coffee from the human supplies that had been brought to the ship. In human history, we call those acceptable losses for a mission-critical objective. Captain Veltara entered the room carrying a stack of data tablets. "Colonel, I have received over 50 requests from different Coalition commanders. They all want human tactical advisors assigned to their units. What kind of requests? Harper asked. Commander Zixler of the Andromedan Defense Corps wants help planning an assault on Void Swarm supply lines. General Mortok of the Sirius Coalition needs advice on urban warfare tactics. Captain Nexara of the Border Defense Fleet wants to learn human interrogation techniques. Admiral Krickstow looked at the requests with concern. Your methods are spreading, Colonel. Other species are beginning to ask difficult questions about their own military doctrines. Good, Harper said simply. If they want to win this war, they need to change how they think about fighting. 3 days later, a new ship arrived from Earth. It was massive, nearly as large as the Coalition flagship. The name Liberty's Edge was painted on its hull in English and 12 alien languages. General Kevin Murphy stepped off the transport shuttle with 20 other human officers. He was older than Harper, with gray hair and scars that told the story of 30 years of warfare. Behind him came Major Susan Bell, an expert in orbital combat, and Colonel Pete Johnson, who specialized in ground assault operations. Harper met them in the main docking bay. The reunion was quiet but emotional. These humans had fought together in wars across the galaxy. They trusted each other with their lives. How bad is it? General Murphy asked without small talk. Bad, Harper replied. The Coalition has been fighting for 50 years and barely holding on. Their tactics are defensive. They react instead of attack. They worry more about their own casualties than enemy casualties. Major Bell looked around the alien ship with the professional interest. What about their technology? Good equipment, but they use it wrong. They have weapons that could destroy entire planets, but they only use them for precise strikes against military targets. Colonel Johnson laughed. It was not a happy sound. They fight a clean war against an enemy that fights dirty. Exactly, Harper said. I showed them some of our historical battles. They think we are insane. General Murphy nodded. Probably we are. But insanity wins wars when sanity loses them. Admiral Krickstow arrived to greet the new human officers. He had learned enough about human military customs to offer a proper salute. General Murphy, welcome to the Coalition fleet. Thank you, Admiral, Murphy replied. I understand you have a problem with space bugs. The Void Swarm, yes? Colonel, Harper has demonstrated that human tactics can be effective against them. But the cost in lives is the price of victory, General Murphy finished. Admiral, let me ask you a question. How many Coalition worlds have been destroyed by the Void Swarm? Admiral Krickstall's scales turned a darker shade of blue. 47. Inhabited systems. Billions of civilian casualties. And how many Void Swarm worlds have you destroyed in return? The silence stretched uncomfortably long. We do not target civilian populations, Admiral Krickstall said finally. The Void Swarm does not have civilians, Colonel Johnson pointed out. Every single one of them is a soldier or a weapon. When you refuse to attack their breeding worlds, you are letting them make more enemies to kill your people. Major Bell activated her datapad and showed Admiral Krickstall a tactical analysis. We studied your battle reports during the trip here. The Void Swarm has a standard pattern. They establish breeding colonies on conquered worlds. Each colony produces about 10,000 new warriors per month. You know where these colonies are located, but you have never attacked them. Such an attack would require massive resources, Admiral Krickstall explained. The casualties would be enormous. The casualties of not attacking are worse, General, Murphy said. Every month you wait, the enemy gets stronger. Every day you hesitate, more Coalition worlds die. Over the following weeks, human officers spread throughout the Coalition fleet. They brought with them concepts that shocked and horrified. Their alien allies, total war, acceptable losses, strategic bombing. Psychological warfare. Colonel Harper found herself promoted to Coalition Strategic Command. Her new office was on the flagship's command deck, surrounded by tactical displays showing the entire warfront. Red dots marked Void Swarm territories. Blue dots showed Coalition forces. There were far more red dots than blue ones. "The situation is worse than I thought," Harper told General Murphy during their daily briefing. "The Void Swarm controls almost a third of the galaxy. They have hundreds of breeding worlds and thousands of war fleets. How long before they overrun the Coalition completely?" Murphy asked. Harper studied the tactical displays. "At current rates of expansion, maybe 10 years. But that assumes the Coalition continues fighting the way they have been fighting. And if we change their tactics? If we can convince them to fight a real war, we might be able to stop the Void Swarm advance. In 2 years. Actually defeating them would take longer." General Murphy pulled up intelligence reports on his datapad. "I have been talking to Coalition commanders about human military doctrine. Half of them are interested. The other half think we are barbarians. Who will destroy galactic civilization?" "They might be right," Harper admitted. "Human warfare is brutal and ugly. But it works." Major Bell entered the office carrying a cup of alien tea that smelled like flowers. "I have been working with the Coalition fleet commanders on new battle formations. They are resistant to anything that increases casualty rates." "Show them the numbers," Harper suggested. "Prove that short, violent battles cost fewer lives than long defensive wars. I tried that. They say the numbers do not matter if the battles are morally wrong." Colonel Johnson appeared in the doorway. "We have a problem. The Coalition High Council is meeting to discuss human involvement in the war. Some species want to limit our authority." General Murphy stood up and walked to the window. Outside, Coalition ships moved in perfect formations. Their tactics were beautiful and elegant. They were also completely ineffective against an enemy that fought without rules or mercy. "Set up a meeting with Admiral Crickstail," Murphy decided. "We need to make our position clear." The meeting took place in the Coalition's main conference room. Representatives from 12 different alien species sat around a circular table. Admiral Crickstail occupied the place of honor at the head of the table. General Murphy entered with his senior officers. The humans wore their dress uniforms and carried themselves with military precision. They looked professional and competent, but also dangerous. "General Murphy," Admiral Crickstail began, "the High Council has concerns about human methods in this war." "What kind of concerns?" Murphy asked. Ambassador Thelvin of the Centauri Republic spoke first. "Your tactics result in unacceptable casualty rates. Our people cannot support a war. That costs so many lives. Your people will not have to support anything if the Void Swarm conquers the galaxy," Colonel Harper replied. "How many lives is your freedom worth?" "That is not the point," said Commander Vexira of the Tau Ceti Defense Force. "We cannot become like our enemies. We must maintain our moral standards." Major Bell activated the room's holographic display. It showed casualty statistics from the past 50 years of war. "Your moral standards have cost you 47 worlds and billions of lives. How is that working out?" The alien representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The numbers were difficult to argue with. "Human methods may be effective," admitted General Coldan of the Rigel Alliance, "but they change the nature of the war itself. If we adopt your tactics, what happens to our civilization afterward?" "It survives," General Murphy said simply. "That is what matters. But at what cost?" asked Ambassador Thelvin. "If we win this war by becoming monsters, have we really won anything?" Colonel Johnson stood up and walked to the holographic display. He changed the image to show Void Swarm. "Breeding colonies. These are the enemy facilities that you refuse to attack. Each one produces 10,000 new warriors every month. Every day these colonies exist, more coalition soldiers die fighting the enemies they create. We cannot target civilian populations, Admiral Crickstall insisted. These are not civilians, Harper said. They are weapons factories. Living weapons factories that will keep producing enemies until someone has the courage to destroy them. The room fell silent. The alien representatives looked at each other with uncertainty. They knew the humans were right, but accepting human methods meant abandoning principles they had held for centuries. Finally, Admiral Crickstall spoke. What exactly are you proposing? General Murphy Activate. 6 months after the Coalition High Council rejected human strategic doctrine, the Void Swarm launched their largest offensive in 50 years. They attacked on 12 different fronts simultaneously, hitting core Coalition worlds with massive hive fleets. Colonel Harper stood in the Coalition Command Center watching the tactical displays turn red one by one. Each red light represented a world under attack or already fallen. The Coalition forces were falling back on every front. Kepler Station has gone silent, reported Captain Veltara. No response to communications for 6 hours. Mark it as lost, Admiral Crickstall said quietly. His scales had turned almost black with stress and exhaustion. General Murphy entered the command center with grim news. The Centauri Republic is requesting immediate evacuation support. They estimate the Void Swarm will reach their home system within days. What about the Rigel Alliance? Harper asked. Already evacuating their outer colonies, Major Bell replied. General Colden says they cannot hold their defensive lines much longer. Admiral Crickstall stared at the tactical displays. 2 more worlds had gone red while they were talking. How did they coordinate such a massive attack? Our intelligence showed no sign of this buildup. Because you were looking for signs of traditional military buildup, Colonel Johnson explained. The Void Swarm does not need supply lines or communication. Networks. They just breed more warriors on conquered worlds and throw them at your defenses. What do you recommend? Admiral Crickstall asked. Harper looked at the star map showing the extent of the Void Swarm offensive. Authorize human strategic doctrine. Full implementation. No restrictions. The High Council will never approve it, Captain Veltara said. The High Council is not here, General Murphy pointed out. Half of them are evacuating their home worlds. The other half are dead. Admiral Crickstall closed his eyes for a long moment. When he opened them, his expression had changed. What do you need? Command authority over all coalition forces, Harper said immediately. No interference from political committees or ethics boards. Complete tactical and strategic control. That is essentially a military dictatorship, Admiral Crickstall said. Yes, Harper agreed. War is not a democracy. You cannot win battles by committee vote. Another world went red on the tactical display. Then another. The Void Swarm advance was accelerating. How long do we have? Admiral Crickstall asked. Major Bell consulted her tactical computer. At current rates of advance, the Void Swarm will reach Coalition core worlds within 3 months. After that, complete collapse within 6 months. And with human methods? We stop them in 2 months, Harper said. Then we start pushing them back. Complete victory within 2 years. Admiral Crickstall looked around the command center. Coalition officers from a dozen different species stared at him with desperate hope. They had tried everything else. Only one option remained. I hereby grant Colonel Harper emergency command authority over all Coalition military forces, Admiral Crickstall announced. All fleet commanders will take orders directly from her until this crisis is resolved. Harper felt the weight of an entire galaxy settling on her shoulders. Billions of lives now depended on her decisions. Computer, open a channel to all Coalition forces. The communication system activated. Harper's image appeared on screens throughout the fleet. Thousands of alien Officers saw her face and waited for orders. "This is Colonel Harper, temporary commander of coalition forces. The Void Swarm has launched a major offensive against our core worlds. Previous defensive strategies have failed. Effective immediately, we are switching to human warfare doctrine." She paused to let that sink in. "All retreat orders are canceled. All casualty limits are removed. Every coalition ship and soldier will fight until the enemy is destroyed, or they are destroyed. No exceptions." Protests came over the communication system from various fleet commanders. Harper ignored them and continued. "I know this is difficult. For many of you, you have been taught to preserve lives and minimize casualties. But the enemy does not care about your moral concerns. They will kill every living thing in this galaxy if we do not stop them." General Murphy stepped up beside her. "New tactical orders are being transmitted to all units. Study them carefully. Your survival depends on understanding human methods." Harper activated the main tactical display. "First target is the Void Swarm staging area in the Proxima system. Admiral Krickstall, I want every available ship for this operation." "That system is heavily defended," Admiral Krickstall warned. "Intelligence estimates show at least 50,000 enemy vessels." "Good," Harper said. "We will kill them all." The coalition fleet assembled for the largest space battle in galactic history. Over 30,000 coalition ships formed attack formations under human tactical doctrine. Instead of elegant defensive formations, they arranged themselves for maximum offensive power. Major Bell commanded the orbital bombardment groups. Colonel Johnson led the assault carriers. Sergeant Rodriguez had been promoted to demolitions coordinator for the entire fleet. Lieutenant Watson commanded Special Operations Forces. Harper stood on the bridge of the flagship as the fleet approached. Proxima system. Through the windows, she could see the Void Swarm defenders. Their bioships looked like a swarm of angry insects floating in space. "All units, commence attack," Harper commanded. The coalition fleet crashed into the Void Swarm. Defenses like a tsunami hitting a beach. Energy weapons lit up space with rainbow colors. Explosions bloomed like deadly flowers. Ships died on both sides, but the coalition forces kept advancing. "We are taking heavy casualties," reported Captain Veltara. 20% losses in the first hour. "Acceptable," Harper replied. "Continue the attack." The battle raged for 6 hours. Coalition ships fought with desperate courage, inspired by human leadership and tactics. They stopped pulling back when damaged. They stopped worrying about their own safety. They focused only on killing enemies. Major Bell's bombardment groups destroyed 3 Void Swarm breeding facilities. Colonel Johnson's assault forces captured 2 more. Sergeant Rodriguez's demolition teams planted charges throughout the enemy base complex. "Void Swarm command structure is collapsing," Lieutenant Watson reported. "They are trying to evacuate. They are breeding queens." "Do not let them escape," Harper ordered. "Kill everything that moves." The final phase of the battle was brutal. Coalition forces hunted down fleeing Void Swarm ships and destroyed them without mercy. No quarter was given. No prisoners were taken. Every enemy in the system died. When the shooting stopped, Harper looked at the casualty reports. The coalition had lost 8,000 ships and 200,000 personnel. It was the worst single battle loss in coalition history, but the Void Swarm losses were total. 50,000 enemy ships destroyed. 3 major breeding facilities eliminated. The entire Proxima staging area wiped out. "My God," whispered Admiral Krickstall. "We actually won." "This is just the beginning," Harper said. "Computer, show me the next target." Over the following months, Harper led the coalition forces in a systematic campaign of extermination. They attacked every Void Swarm world, every breeding colony, every supply depot. The aliens learned to fight with human ruthlessness and efficiency. The casualties were enormous. The Coalition lost 60% of its fleet and millions of personnel. Entire species contributed their last ships and soldiers to the war effort. But slowly, steadily, the Void Swarm was pushed back. Harper's personal kill count climbed to over 100,000 individual enemies. She had personally led assaults on 15 different worlds. Her tactics became legendary throughout the galaxy. The final battle took place at the Void Swarm home system, a cluster of bioworlds that had been producing enemies for thousands of years. Harper led the last Coalition fleet, only 5,000 ships, remaining from the original force of 30,000. "This is where it ends," she told her officers. "Every Void Swarm queen, every breeding facility, every last warrior dies today." The battle lasted 3 days. Coalition forces fought through layers of bioships and living space stations. They bombed breeding worlds into sterile rock. They hunted down the last Void Swarm queens in their deepest bunkers. When it was over, the Void Swarm was extinct. Not a single member of their species remained alive anywhere in the galaxy. The threat that had terrorized civilized worlds for centuries was gone forever. Harper stood in the ruins of the last Void Swarm facility. Around her, Coalition soldiers from a dozen different species worked together to secure the area. They had learned to fight like humans, and in doing so, they had saved their galaxy. Admiral Crickstall found her standing among the wreckage. "Colonel Harper, the Coalition High Council has unanimously voted to offer you permanent command of all Coalition military forces." Harper looked at the alien admiral. His scales were scarred from battle, and his eyes held a new understanding of what war really meant. "I accept on one condition." "What condition?" "Earth becomes the galaxy's military training center. Every Coalition officer will learn human warfare doctrine. Never again will your people be caught unprepared for an enemy that fights without mercy." 6 months later, Harper stood in the courtyard of the new Galactic Military Academy on Earth. Above the entrance, carved in stone and translated into 50 alien languages, were the words, "Peace through superior firepower." Young officers from across the galaxy came to Earth to learn the harsh lessons that humans had learned there.